I'm 23 now and have a car and everything, but when I was 19-ish, I couldn't drive and had to take buses everywhere. One day, I was on the way to meet a friend at the local big mall/cinema because there was some movie we wanted to see that was only showing there. It was a decent distance from where I lived at the time, and the trip involved 3 different bus lines, each about 20 to 25 minutes, with 45 minutes of wait time between. Everything seemed pretty normal at the time. Just a regular ride, listening to music, and trying not to watch people too conspicuously. A couple of stops after I got onto the first bus, we got a big group from a strip mall, so the bus became basically standing room only. I was towards the front, as usual. I like to look out the front windshield. In my area, people don't rely on buses much, and those who do generally only take short trips, so most of the big group cleared out pretty quickly. Except for a woman in the very back. She wasn't looking directly at me, that I could tell, just down at the ground. Really wild, unkempt looking black hair, and a navy blue hoodie. I think anyway. It was a while ago. I didn't pay her much mind at first. Anyway, I got off the bus at the changeover point and walked across the street to the next stop. The bus was late, but I was playing a game on my DS, so the time passed quickly. When it finally arrived, I sat in my usual spot near where I stand in the front and looked around. The woman was on this bus too, a couple of seats forward this time, and rocking back and forth, and that kind of thing. I didn't think it was too weird yet. The route I took to the mall was kinda strange, but I've shared a couple buses with the same people before, and people fidget for all sorts of reasons. Groups of people got on and off the bus as normal, but as they did, she got a couple of seats closer. Okay, fine. It was a little unnerving, but people move closer to the middle of the bus all the time. That's where the secondary doors are, and they're easier to get to than walking all the way to the front. I tried to ignore it by getting back into my game and turning the music up, but I could tell that I was being watched. Got off the bus, headed to the next stop. Rinse, repeat. The third bus is a straight line across the county to the mall, and is the longest leg of it. At that point, the woman was sitting in the seat right next to the middle doors, and I started to get really nervous. My music was off so I could hear something if I needed to. I tried not to make a big deal about it, but I did keep an eye on her. She was muttering to herself, but I couldn't hear anything yet. She was too far away. Sure enough, as people filed on and off the bus, she got closer. I was sitting in the set of seats right by the door, which faced the aisle, so I could watch her. I pretended I was asleep and watched her moving towards me. She was clearly trying to time her seat moves so they'd be disguised by people getting on and off the bus. 3 rows. 2 rows. 1 row. I was shitting bricks at this point. She finally was close enough that I could hear her. She was ranting aloud to herself about cutting me, about how my face was perfect, if only I would stop looking at her like that. Her hands were fidgeting around something in the front pocket of her hoodie, and I saw light glint off of something. When she moved to sit on the same row as me, I yanked the stop cord. I whispered to the bus driver, "She's following me with a knife," and hopped off the bus ASAP. I didn't run though. I was worried that a sudden movement might make her charge. She followed me off, and once the driver realized I wasn't making it up, he got off the bus and jogged after us. He yelled at her that he was going to call the cops, which distracted her long enough for me to sprint into the nearest drugstore and hide and call my mom. After that, I had a massive panic attack, and didn't feel up to continuing to the mall. I don't think I told my friends why. My mom came to get me about 10 minutes later, and no actual harm was done. She didn't even get pulled over for speeding. Kind of an anticlimax, I guess. But thinking back on it now, I might owe that bus driver my life. A few years ago, I was leaving my grad school office late around 10 p.m. to catch a bus home. I walked from university campus via relatively busy, well-lit streets to the main north-south road in my area of the city, 109th Street in Edmonton. I was waiting for the bus at a shelter, as it was the middle of winter, snowing, and a bit cold. The buses ran about every 15 minutes, so I wasn't worried or nervous. I was just patiently waiting to get home. I was listening to my music with my headphones in, when I noticed a guy walk up to the shelter. I looked at him briefly, and did that little Canadian half-smile of acknowledgement, and went back to listening to my music and reading Reddit. A few minutes passed, and I could hear him start talking to me. Well, I assumed it was me. I was the only person around. I looked up and he was staring right at me, smiling a bit oddly and speaking to me. I took out my headphones and said, "Excuse me?" He just kept smiling and blathering on, asking me about my day, and the weather, what I like to do, and all those sorts of things. I don't know what it is about me, or perhaps people and women in general, but I'm a perennial people pleaser. I don't like confrontation, and my main aim in life seems to be to keep the peace. So I answered a few of his questions as politely and non-specifically as I could, with one earbud still in my ear. He just kept blathering on, and I was sort of just nodding politely. This went on for about 10 minutes, and I just had this sinking feeling in my stomach about this guy. Like something was just a little bit off, but enough to make me nervous. After about 10 minutes, I could see the bus rolling up, which was a huge relief to me. No one else had arrived at the bus stop, and I could see at least 10 or 15 people on the bus, which was great. I got on the bus and sat near the front, and the guy sat across from me so he could keep talking to me. I had originally intended to head to my own house, to the west of the street I was on, but after this guy decided to be my personal parrot, I decided, screw it, I'm going to my boyfriend's instead, directly to the east of the street I was on. I was still getting an uncomfortable feeling from this guy, so I decided I would push the bus stop button to stop early to see what the guy did. The bus came to a stop at my request, and the guy got up. I didn't move. "Isn't this your stop too?" he asked me. And I said, "Whoops, I must have hit the wrong stop." He looked at me and said, "Oh, that's funny. I mix it up too. This isn't my stop either," and sat back down. At this point, I'm pretty freaked out. I hit the bus stop for the next stop, and texted my boyfriend to come and meet me at 109th Street. I got up to leave the bus once it stopped, and the creepy dude followed. I crossed the road and he followed, still talking away at me, still asking me questions. Once I got to the other side of the road, I told him that I had to go and that my boyfriend was meeting me. He looked irritated at the idea of my boyfriend, and tried to walk with me a bit more. But I stopped and told him that I was walking on alone. "Can I have your number?" I panicked and I just froze. I decided to give him almost my phone number. Just the last 4 digits were scrambled. I read it off to him, said goodnight, and started walking away quickly. I had made it maybe 20 steps, and I could hear someone jogging after me. "Hey!" he yelled after me. "I think there was a mix-up. I tried calling the number and it wasn't you." He jogged up level next to me and was still smiling the same fucking smile, staring at me. How weird, I said, grabbing my phone. I pretended to check it for a missed call and quickly texted my boyfriend that I was terrified and he needed to get here now. So what's your real number then? He asked. I honestly don't know what I would have done. I think I would have given him my real number. I just had no idea what to do. It was cold. It was winter. And it was dark in this little residential neighborhood I had entered. I knew I couldn't outrun him. Luckily for me, that was when my boyfriend came running up. He's 6'3" and somewhat imposing. And I turned to the guy and said, "Have a good night," and jogged up to my boyfriend. I just launched myself at him. I didn't look back at the creepy dude, but I did tell my boyfriend to please make sure the doors were all locked and the windows all closed before we went to bed that night. A little background. I was 17 years old at the time. I'm a girl, and I lived in a rooming house in a fairly quiet, nicer part of the city. The downside to this being that the transit out to my area sucked. Buses every half hour to and from school until 5:30, and after 5:30, I would have to bus from the school to a nearby transit center and take a bus from there to my house. But this bus only ran hourly. I had to take a night class once a week. All the other slots were full when I registered, meaning I had to do this slog home once a week. So I finished my night class this particular night at 9 p.m. It was winter, and living in Canada, this means cold and much snow. I bussed from the uni to the transit center, and obviously, being cold outside, I waited inside the small heated little room that they have at the major centers. This is mostly so drivers can get off the bus and pee if they need to. My expected wait time at this stop was about 15 to 20 minutes, so I sat down, headphones in, and cracked my bus reading material. Since it was so cold, there were a few other people in the room with me. I noticed a guy about my age, sorta gangster looking, standing in one corner. I could see that he was looking at me, but at the time I had a pretty unconventional appearance. Dreads, piercings, kinda metal goth look, so him looking at me wasn't anything out of the ordinary. About 10 minutes in, he comes and sits by me. I ignore him and go back to my book, but I can feel him watching me. Eventually, he taps me on my shoulder. I pull out an earbud and ask him what's up. "Hey, what's your name?" At that point, I told him my name. "Oh, cool. Neat name. What are you up to tonight?" "Oh, I'm just going home. I have school in the morning." At this point, I was getting pretty irritated with the guy, but my bus wasn't there yet, and I didn't really have any easy outs. "That's no fun. You should come with me. I'm going to meet some friends and do karaoke. You look like you'd be fun." "No thanks. Like I said, I have to be up early tomorrow." "Oh, come on. Just one drink? I'll get my friend to drive you home." At this point, my bus rolled up. "Sorry, but no. That's my bus, so I've got to go." "Not so much." "Hey, that's my bus too. So where do you live?" "Around here." I'm trying to be vague at this point. He's just getting really weird and pushy. This particular bus I'm catching goes from the suburbia area where I live all the way down to a really rough part of town. And if this guy's from that area, I really don't want him knowing where I live. "Okay, well, if you change your mind, come and sit with me." Thank God the creep finally got the message. So time to get off at my stop comes, and I pull the cord. I'm getting up to the middle of the bus, and my new friend gets up to join me. He's still trying to cajole me into coming with him, but when I get off, he gets off too. The stop is literally 10 steps away from my house, but I don't really want him knowing where I live. At this point, he's clearly following me, trying to walk with me, trying to talk to me, trying to get my phone number. I've had enough. Dude, you're freaking me out. Go away. Stop following me. Well, I can't go anywhere now. Next bus doesn't come for a while. Why don't I just come over to your place and wait for the next one? At this point, I decide to stop engaging. Thank God the road I lived on was pretty well trafficked and had streetlights. I walked to the end of my block and turned the corner, then booked it into the alley behind my house. I knew if I could just get to my yard, my roommate's dog would scare this guy off. As soon as I started running, the guy's incessant chatter turned into yelling. I heard him start chasing, but I'd caught him off guard and had a few-second lead. I made it to the yard and popped the latch on the gate, just as the guy grabbed my backpack. Before he could do anything else, he had a 100-pound former police German Shepherd all up in his grill. I love that dog. Kita knocked him down on the ice and started barking her head off. My roommate comes rushing out of the house to find his dog standing over some dude, and me looking like I'd just run a zombie escape game. And the cops were called, and the guy was arrested on outstanding warrants. I start coming home and driving myself to night classes. This encounter happened to my mom when she was in middle school, early 70s. Her family lived outside of town, so she rode the bus to and from school. She was in 6th grade and had a boyfriend who also rode her bus. They would sit together and hold hands, but they were never inappropriate with their actions. The bus driver took notice of their relationship and started to make comments to them. He'd ask if they kissed a lot, if they tongued, and even once asked him if he sniffed her underwear. Not knowing what to do, they did their best to ignore him. On the last day of school, the bus route went as usual, except that the bus driver skipped my mom's stop. When he stopped at the next house, several miles away, she tried to get off the bus with that girl. The kids all knew each other pretty well and were friends. The driver stopped her and made her go sit back down. Every stop after that, she'd try to get off the bus, and he'd tell her to go sit back down until she was the last one left. She was already terrified and crying. She has said that she didn't remember if she was praying out loud or not, but she remembers just begging for an idea of how to get away. The bus driver told her to move to the front of the bus right behind his seat. Instead, she picked up her things and moved to the very last seat. On her way, she set her books and things in the middle of the aisle, hoping that if he came after her, he would be slowed down. He finally started back down the road towards her house, but turned off onto a dirt road leading back to some brush. She finally decided that if he slowed down enough, she was going out the back emergency door and running for it. As he turned onto another dirt road deeper into the brush, she happened to glance out the back window to see her dad and her older brother, he was an adult, in their truck following behind. She shouted to the driver, "You better stop this bus right now. That's my dad behind us." He stopped the bus and opened the doors for her to get off, but she was too scared to move. Within a few seconds, her dad was on the bus standing right up next to the driver, so that she could walk around behind him. He told her to go get in the truck with her brother. As she sat in the truck, she could see her dad through the back window of the bus, just going off on this guy, verbally only, unfortunately. When her dad got back into the truck, he hugged her like he never had before, and she just lost it crying. She knew that if her dad was scared, she just escaped with her life. Now, this wasn't just a coincidence that her dad had found her. Every kid who got off the bus after they missed my mom's stop had gone home and told their parents that the driver wouldn't let her off the bus and that she was really scared and crying. And the parents all called my grandparents to let them know the stories that they were getting. My grandparents never reported the incident to the police or to the school, but they did talk to the owner of the bus company, and they never saw that guy driving again. My mom believes that they didn't report it to the police because her dad had threatened the driver's life, and he might in turn report that to the police. My grandfather went to his grave without ever revealing what he said to that bus driver. Several years later, my mom was talking with her mother-in-law, Grandma C, about Grandma C's cousin, who was married to a guy from my mom's hometown. Grandma C was telling her that this guy was in prison for impregnating his 14-year-old stepdaughter. As an off-the-cuff remark, she mentioned that he used to drive a school bus in the district where my mom went to school. My mom almost passed out at this news. She asked his name, and was given the name of the bus driver who abducted her all those years ago. I know. I feel the same way, that they should have said something to the police and had him arrested long before he found another potential victim. I'm glad that the perp ended up in a prison eventually, though. What's up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it to the end of the video here. If you liked the video, please feel free to leave a comment, or like and share if you feel so inclined. If you have any stories you'd like me to read, or any personal stories you'd like to send in, please feel free to take a look in the description below. There will be links to all of my social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail. Go ahead and send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to include your story in a video as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please feel free to include in the tagline what the story is about and how you'd like to be credited in the description of the video that this story appears in. If you have any constructive criticism, please feel free to leave it in the comments below, as I'm always looking for new ways to improve the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.